Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session titled Every DPI We Safeguards from Vision to Practice. I'm Toby Kasali from the UN Office for Digital and Emerging Technologies, and I'll be moderating the session today. I'm Nigerian, so I'm delighted to be in South Africa today and on the African continent. On your seats, you will find one of 3 reports developed and produced by our multi-stakeholder working groups. The first one, the Universal DPI Safeguards Framework Report, a guide to building safe and inclusive societies, released in 2024. Advancing Adoption, practical pathways to DPI safeguards implementation. Assessing DPI safeguards, principles to outcomes, both released in 2025, to support the cycle of adoption, assessment, and improvement in the DPI safeguards journey. Looking around this room, I see a diverse group of stakeholders who are passionate about DPI safeguards, and that's why we're all here today. But I believe we're not just passionate about safeguards as an end in itself. We recognize that safeguards are a proactive driver essential for DPI to deliver on its promise of equitable prosperity. Safeguards ensure that digital transformation empowers rather than excludes. It fosters trust among users, both citizens and businesses. Safeguards fuel operational efficiency and spark innovation by inviting, again, a group of diverse stakeholders like yourselves to create solutions ensuring that DPI is safe and inclusive for everyone. And as USC Jill mentioned in his opening remarks, it's really critical to recognize that DPI safeguards are not brakes halting DPI progress. Thank you. They are seatbelts. They make it possible to implement and scale DPI safely, inclusively, and at pace. Before we dive in today, I would like to ask you a question. This morning we saw a poll with responses, and the question was, what design choices were needed to reach population scale? We saw trust, we saw inclusion, safeguards, and interoperability. And these were highlighted as the 4 key points. So, for you, just a quick question. What will build your trust in a DPI system? I already see a lot of interesting responses here. Open code security. Accountability, DPI without MasterCard, Visa, and big tech. Okay, inclusion, data protection, more along the lines of what I was expecting. Safeguards, leadership, representative government, and electors. Thank you for these responses. We have a packed hour today where we'll be discussing some of these topics. Our session, can we go to the slides back, please? Thank you. Our session will focus on practical examples from early adopters and ecosystem partners. We'll have a panel on aligning the ecosystem to accelerate safeguards adoption in 2026. And we'll also share a note on our ambitions, our shared ambitions for 2026 as well. With that, it is my pleasure to invite the co-stewards of the Universal Safeguards Initiative to give opening remarks and share progress on the work we've done so far. So firstly, Mr. Robert Obb, Chief Digital Officer at UNDP, followed by Dr. Benny Snane, Senior Advisor on Digital Transformation and AI at ODET. Rob?
Thank you, Toby. It's a really full room. It is fantastic to see this much interest in safeguards. Just to give a brief introduction and to kind of situate why we're here and what we want to do here, the DPI Safeguards Initiative, which is co-led by UNDP and the Office for Digital and Emerging Technologies of the UN Secretariat, is an initiative that we really wanted to start as a means of getting ahead of the technology discussion out there. A lot of times the speed of technology development outpaces the safeguards discussion. And when it comes to digital public infrastructure, we wanted to be sure that we were having that conversation up front as the systems are being designed, that safeguards is not an afterthought, it's not an add-on or a bolt-on, it is something that actually has to be central. And the momentum around safeguards has really taken off over the last year since we actually launched the booklet that's on your chairs, the DPI Universal Safeguards Framework. That was launched last year at the UN General Assembly. We also held a number of sessions this year, this past September at the General Assembly. Similarly packed rooms like this, and we're so pleased that it's hitting a chord. One of the most important principles around this whole thing is the need for a multi-stakeholder approach. And we're really now starting to see traction coming from civil society groups, traction coming from the technical community that run digital public goods and things, the international organizations, of course. And one thing that we also are starting to see, and we would like to see more, is the private sector involvement and how that works. Because for digital public infrastructure, the role of private sector is extremely important. And it's not just on the technology side, it has to be on the safeguard side as well. And so one of the things that we do want to explore as we go forward is the role of all of these stakeholders in really bringing together this tapestry of safeguards, because it isn't just a policy adoption or a single policy or a single mechanism. There's a whole set of things, and we're going to get into that discussion later today or over the course of this agenda in the next 50 minutes or so, and hopefully picked up in other sessions across the next couple of days as well. Just a couple of things as I end. We are also now turning to launch something that we're calling the DPI Safeguards Accelerator. That's just a platform that we're building that will invite creative ideas and really the best thinking around the world. This is in a sense a continuation of what we've already done by creating a number of working groups and bringing experts together, but also trying to crowdsource more ideas around what is working out there, because this is really the way that we've approached this work overall. There is excellent work going on already. We don't need to dream up a lot of new things. We just need to understand what's going on, what's working, and then spread. Last thing to say, the poet philosopher Sanjay Purohit, who many of you will know in this room, who was also one of our chief rapporteurs for the whole process of safeguards, said something very important this morning, and I just wanted to quote him, because he said, "If it isn't safe and inclusive, it isn't DPI." And I could not agree more. So this is why safeguards are at the center of everything that we want to do when it comes to digital public infrastructure, because if it isn't there, it isn't DPI. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Toby. And dear colleagues, thank you so much for having me today. I'll start with my experience on the safeguards, just to put that into context. When I was plugged into that project, without prior notice, I was like, oh, that's a new project coming. I was working on at that time on the high-level advisory body on AI that was set up by the Secretary General, and I was like, okay, 1 year project, let's do it. And thanks to Rob, Sanjay, Matthew, all the colleagues in the discussion, quickly discovered that we are going deeper than a project. That's a process that we are building. That's an entire new thinking that we are bringing inside of the safeguards. I know that we mostly share the vision of DPI as building blocks of 3 foundational pieces: payment, ID, and data exchange. I think that safeguards is the fourth pillar. That must be integrated in these three pillars, meaning without safeguards, without these guardrails built between these three main pillars, we may fail. And then we have seen a lot of experience rolling back, meaning deployment of DPI that was a failure or that was being shut down for various reasons. Most of these reasons are coming back to security, privacy issues, inclusion issues. So, and I can cite some of these experiences. I won't do that today. So the safeguards is a vision rather than a project that we've tried to integrate from scratch by design inside of the DPI, and how to bring something by design inside of already existing thinking. That was not that easy. Meaning we need to find the roots of insertion and roots of to how to plug the safeguards thinking, which is not a very classical and organical thinking that when it comes to the technical infrastructure being implemented. And then as Rob was saying, there's a lot of technical pace, technical implementation, because we needs to be done, we need some concrete on-the-ground implementation. But this initial thinking of how to integrate and reinforce the security, privacy, safeguards, inclusivity, all what we've been saying, while thinking about interoperability from the scratch, is an essential step that was in our main thinking when building the safeguards framework. So thanks to all the colleagues who participated to the first and the second working group on the safeguards, firstly to define the main pillars of the safeguards. What does it really mean? How to define the different area of risks that could apply to digital public infrastructure projects. And the second working group that is working on how to apply these different elements that we figured out during the first framework on the practical manner. I think this is a continuous work. We need to take it forward from the high-level thinking as a pillar or foundational piece of digital public infrastructure to much more into the process thinking, where we will make it as legal, risk management, security, and technical pieces that could be implemented and reinforced. It's besides the thinking, it's something that should be reinforced and rethought, like we can see all the pieces in the foundational DPI structure, that we have the initial philosophical thinking, but we also have the technical thinking. And that's a step that we are looking forward to implement, where the safeguards is not only designed inside of the digital public infrastructure, but also built within the digital public infrastructure. And we have a core pillar that could be used by any project or member states adopting digital public infrastructure projects. Without being longer than that, there's a big commitment when it comes to the safeguards. Thanks for, meaning this is a full room. Thanks for all people here. And I would like to thank our different international organization who joined that thinking. It's very hard to commit to a same thinking, a standard thinking when it comes to these kind of process that are initiated. So we are glad to announce, to say that we have an international organization group regrouping most AU operating in the digital public infrastructure and agreeing on the different steps, taking the safeguards initiative forwards. And then we are looking forward to the future of safeguards with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob and Mehdi, for sharing our safeguards, vision, ambitions, and values. We'll now hear from those building with safeguards on the ground. Please join me in welcoming our moderator for the panel, Mr. Matthew McNaughton, Director for Inclusion and Safety and Civil Society Engagement at Co-Develop, to lead the Building with Safeguards Country and Implementer Views panel. Thank you.
All right. Start the timer. I'm really excited by this room. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. All right. Okay, we're here to have a discussion. We're going to talk. There's a lot of tech. I think I'm actually most excited about this year, and to the co-dev team, to all of the partners, that we tried really hard to make sure that the safeguards discussion is like a critical part of the DPI Summit this year. I think you guys will see, especially for those who came to the summit last year, I think there are almost like 40% of the sessions this year are focused on different topics around governance, around inclusion, around thinking about these things in intentional ways. And I'm just most excited to kick that off with this session here today as the first segment after the opening. So first, thank you to the Safeguards team, to Toby for starting us, to Rob, to Mehdi for the opening remarks. Last year at this event, we said as a community that, safeguards cannot be an afterthought, that we want to do more as a community to expand the voices that ultimately inform the decisions around this core infrastructure, that we wanted to do more on data governance and privacy, that we wanted to do more to critically engage with the new questions and policy challenges that this approach was also raising for the governments that were leading that work. And, even as we do that, there's some who are concerned about being too consultative and how that might introduce risk into execution, or persons who are worried that if we spend too much time on these issues, we're going to move too slowly. And I think we all recognize that we need to deliver more in our respective countries. And I think what I'm really excited about for this panel, as we will all discuss today, is that we're going to have a group of reformers and leaders who are showing that we can be intentional in thinking about inclusion, can be consultative, and also still move with speed in executing of the work. And so they're all from countries and organizations that committed last year, in the course of this year, to implementing the DPI Safeguards Framework. And they're going to be sharing with us a little bit of their secret sauce, what works, what lessons they have, and how they're building a trustworthy, resilient future. So with that, I want you to join me in welcoming our speakers, and I'm going to give a little bit of context on each as we kind of bring up, so you can also know a little bit about their work. So in South Africa, our hosts, they've moved from strategy roadmap to launching early building blocks for their digital ID and payment systems. And they are going to be able to discuss how they're prioritizing safeguards as a critical moment of their design and development. And so to have that discussion, please help me welcome on Mr. Kule Duma, who's a portfolio lead for programs and partnerships at the Presidency of South Africa. As the host of COP30, Brazil is demonstrating how we can connect digital infrastructure with environmental goals and environmental justice. And their Rural Environmental Registry, CAR, is a prime example of using DPI to enforce environmental law and embed accountability. And to have that discussion, Beatriz Vascolenes will be the Deputy Secretary from Digital Transformation, will be joining us on stage. All right. With Jami Namba, their digital ID, Jami Malipo, their digital payments, and Jami Data, their exchange, as critical building blocks of their tech stack, Tanzania is tackling long-standing issues in service delivery, limited to access to formal financial participation and government services for their 70 million residents. We are very happy to have Mr. Mashaka, who is the Director of Information and Service Development from the Ministry of ICT, to join us on stage. All right. And lastly, an organization very close to my heart. We're going to be joined on the panel with UNICEF, who's joining us as a critical implementing partner, one of the international orgs that stepped up to say, hey, we want to work with countries, we want this to be a part of what we're doing, to ensure that the orgs that we're working with and the nations that we're working with build their digital foundations with the rights and inclusion of the most vulnerable citizens, our children. And so with that, I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Khan Setinturk, the CIO for UNICEF, on stage. guys in slides. Okay, I'll share mine. Let me this one. Thank you. All right. Kool-Aid. You guys are working on 3 layers of DPI, same time. And ultimately, and most recently, you launched a data exchange, and you committed to the Universal Safeguards Framework. Can you share some specifics of how you're designing intentionally with the Safeguards Framework as you get off on your journey?
No, thank you. You know, I thought to myself that it was maybe quite critical to speak about the importance of safeguards, not only in our journey, but also, I think, from a historical perspective. The big outcome for us is not just simply the delivery of services, which can make people's lives easier, but in one way, it is to really transform the relationship between government and people, right? By actually showing people that government services can work the way that they were designed, right? And that's just not, I think, to the South Africans that are in the room, that's just not a modern phenomenon in some sense, right? But I think there's also a historical impetus to that. And what I mean is that you're in a country with a very painful history, and a history of particular surveillance in people's lives. So when you speak about safeguards, when you speak about the adoption of technologies that are going to be using people's data, yes, to in some sense improve their lives, you've also got to make sure that the protections against that kind of historical context is there, right? And so maybe that gives you some insight into what drives us. But indeed, you're correct that we've just recently launched the data exchange. And there's a number of ways, of course, that we embed the safeguards, those 18 principles that have been set out, which is first, the idea of the data exchange, or as we call it, the Mzansi exchange, is not that it's going to be a central repository, but rather with particular permissions and of course with a deliberate design, it will actually pull on the data that is sitting within departments. So departments will still be responsible for protecting those particular data sets. It then works as a secure bridge, right? Ensuring that we not only adhere to those principles, but we also adhere to our laws, which of course are driven by that particular historical context. The second one is also being able to leverage what has already worked. So 20 years of experience coming out of Estonia to the X Road, leveraging that, right, making sure that it's encrypted, that any kind of use of data is encrypted, it's traceable, becomes also quite critical. And then the last one is the use of sandboxing. Because what sandboxing does is that if there are, I think, any risks, and let's say any infringement of people's rights as it relates to their data, we're able to actually pick those up. But the use cases maybe might be the controversial part, which is that what we're piloting are the things that really matter to people. So we're piloting the social grant that millions of people depend on, using as, of course, a small set of people and so on. You're also piloting the transfer of payments to students who depend on that money. So that when you look at all of those steps that we're taking, right, in a sandbox environment where we're able to pick up that there might be particular issues, it means that when we do eventually roll it out to people, that it can make the impact it has. There is a set of guardrails that have been there and have ensured that we're able to go forward. I'm not going to go into the other items, but certainly I think in the next questions we can speak about what we're doing on payments, making sure that we're not just dependent on one particular solution, making sure against on digital identity that we're building off infrastructure that has worked historically in South Africa and we know we can depend on. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kool-Aid. Bio, I feel like a lot has changed in the last year. And I think much of the world knows about PIX, about gov.br, but when the Brazilian government was choosing to partner with the Safeguards Initiative on DPI and thinking about this, they chose CAR as like the DPI that they wanted to work on and have as a center of this work. Can you share a little bit about how that journey is unfolding and how this applies to the environmental space?
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure being here. And yeah, as you said, it wasn't an obvious choice, right? It's not the payments, data exchange, or ID. CAR is actually the Rural Environmental Registry in Brazil. So for those of you who don't know, it's a registry with over 8 million registries, rural properties. That represents, that covers over 95% of our farms. And so it's one of the largest environmental registries in the world. And it's also very important for us because that's the first step to be able to access rural credit and also to comply with environmental law. And it's very interesting, I like to say that when we talk about safeguards, a lot of people say that, well, you guys always say that you have to embed it from the start. And I agree, but in the case of Brazil, a lot of our DPI and what we are turning into DPIs and DPGs already existed. So CAR isn't new, it already existed. So our challenge is to work from brownfield and turn some of our key registries and infrastructures into DPI with safeguards. So just to share a little bit, first of all, I'd like to thank our team from the Ministry of Management. Luciana is sitting there. She's being key in driving this agenda, Guy as well. So these are the real implementers of this project. And we've been partnering with UNDP, so thank you also very much for the partnership. So I'm gonna highlight at least three different components of safeguards in CAR. So first of all is the inclusion aspect. We just launched a few months ago something called Meu Imóvel Rural. It's an app in which the farmer can see a lot of information regarding the registry, and it works both online and offline. So that was a key element. Interestingly also, although it's a federal policy, it's the states who issue the registry. So a lot of them have been partnering with civil society organizations to help register smallholders and traditional groups. So that has been a key element. The second one is security and trust. One very important thing, and I think it's a key element of our governance in Brazil, we have two large IT state-owned enterprises. Rodrigo, right there, is the president of one of them. And we decided to host CAR inside one of our companies, DataPrev. So the data is encrypted. We've been using gov.br authentication in the app. It complies with our data protection law and obviously the universal safeguard principles. And third is transparency. So all the non-sensitive data, it's public and it's available through open APIs and geo servers. And a lot of NGOs take advantage of that to also run a lot of good analysis for us. So for example, we found that 18% of the entries in CAR, they had some overlap with some undesigned public land. So this exposes like illegal occupation and also helps us drive reform. So yes, I think that those are the key elements. We know that CAR is driving public and private value because, as I said, it's also key for enabling access to credit. And we are very ambitious about this project. We also just started a project to embed verifiable credentials within CAR, and we're very hopeful and excited about this initiative.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you give a round of applause, please? Director Mashaka, Tanzania. You know, the Minister of ICT has an ambitious goal to provide every child with a unique JAMI number connecting legal identity, school records, and the national ID system. And, you know, this increased transferability and processing of sensitive information related to children itself creates new urgency to strengthen the technical, operational, and policy safeguards across the entire JAMI stack, not just in this use case. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys are doing that and what's the thinking there?
Yes, nice to be here. Tanzania actually is one of the countries that has championed the issues related to DPI, and we've done our way from the ground. We have learned from other countries. You mentioned it, from Cambodia, from India, Estonia, even Brazil. We've been there. So at the end of the day, when we sat down and we felt like we need to have something of our own, that's why we came up with what we call a Jammy stack. We understand India has India stack, there is Euro stack, there is Gov stack, but we came up with our own Jammy stack. And with this Jammy stack, as you're aware, in the mid we have 3 layers. The bottom layer is an enabling layer, and the middle layer is a DPI layer, where you can find now all these core, the DPI sub layers, where we have the digital identity, we have digital payment, and also we have data governance. Most of the other, they prefer data exchange, but we prefer data governance because we feel there is a need now to preserve data, and that's why we come to the issues of safeguard into place. So we have been really learning our way, and now we are ready to share our experiences. That's why we have also joined the 50 in 5 campaign as well, so that we can pronounce the usage of DPI. So we have been working with UNICEF. UNICEF has been helping us to develop the civil registration registries for a couple of years ago. But when it came to the implementation of DPI, the civil registration, the civil registry was not integrated with our identity number, which we call it a JAMI number. We only issue a digital identity number from 18 years and above. So with this, we sat down with through World Bank projects, we managed to develop a platform that registers children from when they are born, you know, so that captures with all the way until you are deaf as well. So from cradle to grave. And now we are working with UNICEF now to implement this platform, which we have locally developed to register children in schools, in hospitals, and issue them with their identity number. And we've managed to develop a platform that registers these children, and we have integrated with the civil registration system. As far as DPI is concerned, we've managed to develop our own homegrown data exchange platform with the like of an X-Road in Estonia. We have one of our own, and we have almost 898 systems that exchange through that platform. And also we have a digital payment with over 2.5 million transactions that goes through every day. We have a digital identity, which is we call JAMI number, which is over 7 to 10 million transactions that goes there every month. So you can see, as a country in Tanzania is a place where we've really deployed our DPI, and through having a Personal Data Protection Act, where we have clearly stated that the child's data are sensitive data. So we are really taking care of it, and with the help of UNICEF, we hope this exercise will be completed successfully, and people now can enjoy services from when they're born. Children can go to school, easy registration, the health insurance, until when they access their universities and the rest. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Director. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Khan, your reputation precedes you, or at least that of the organization. UNICEF is working closely with Tanzania, with Lesotho, with many countries to think about how do we do digital in a responsible manner, particularly as it relates to working and engaging with children and children's data. Could you talk a little bit about the progress so far? What are the lessons that we can take away, and what can we share with this room about how do we do this work responsibly?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me here, and I'm glad I'm the last one to come because I'm not the first person to talk about children. This is normally, I would be the first person. As many of you know, UNICEF is all about child rights. So whatever the topic is, be it AI, DPGs, or DPI, or home decoration or cooking, we would be the one bringing the child rights, child centricity in the discussion. And I don't know if you saw the word cloud this morning when we did that survey. There was one entry, child centricity. You can immediately suspect there's a UNICEF person in the room. So we're 3 people here from UNICEF, and I know it's one of us that put it there. So what do we do in the DPI domain? I mean, we're very traditionally, as you know, UNICEF has a partnership with the governments, especially in the education domain. We work with the Ministry of Education, working on the education plans, education strategy of the country. We work with the Ministry of Health on the national health systems, national health plans. We work with Ministry of Justice, or depending on the country, Ministry of Interior, Department of Home Affairs, on the civil registration services. And the more that these services are becoming digitalized, obviously the DPI conversation comes into the picture, because DPI is all at the base level of all these conversations. And where we play a role is bring that child angle, the child rights angle and the child centricity angle into that conversation as well. Because if you think about civil registrations, one thing that UNICEF really advocates for is to having a legal identity for any child on the day of birth. And that is by registering the child in a civil registration services, for example. And of course, we have seen in many different countries, the digital ID is developing independently from civil registration services. And it's extremely important that we don't leave children behind, because that integration is not there, and some of the services to children are provided only on the basis of the digital identity, for example. So this is the kind of conversation we have with the governments to make sure that the children are involved and included. And data protection is another concern that we talk about, because in many of the places you have seen some children, the day they were born, they become a criminal because their identity is stolen and used for criminal activities. And that is because of some lack of safeguards in the data handling, data protection. And that is something, again, we work with the governments and see how we can collect children's data, what data to be collected, and how can we protect this data as well. And this is, I'm glad that you gave the example. In Tanzania, we're working on this. In Lesotho, we're collaborating again with the government to ensure the children's data in the DPI stack, and specifically in the social protection system, is protected. And how do we exchange this data with even the other parts of the ministries or the other part of the government as well? So what I can say is, and I think it goes back to Rob's point at the opening, the key lesson for us is that the safeguards cannot be an afterthought. So we have to design it while we're designing our public infrastructure.
No. Thank you so much. And can we give kind of a round of applause, please? So, okay, I'm looking at the time, and I know my colleagues had reached out. So I think, this session, we really have only been able to just touch the water. But really to illustrate to you all that there's a lot of work that has happened over the last year. A lot of different partners have come on board to say that this is important, we want to do more on this, and that we want to make progress more quickly. I think many of the colleagues on the stage have sessions this week where they go more in depth on these topics. I know UNICEF has a session on safeguarding children's data, and in DPI this week, and there are other sessions this week on these topics. So I'm going to pass back to Toby to move us along. You sure? Oh, you sure? Okay. All right. I've been given approval and consent of the owners of the session. So rapid fire, I think not even 1 minute, 30 seconds. 1 year from now, where do you want to be okay, it's 18 months from now. I'll give you 18 months. Where do you want to be in your respective DPI journeys, and how is Safeguards going to help you to get there?
No, thanks so much. Yeah, I think in 30 seconds, the first one is just to ensure that where there are gaps, we've embedded some of the safeguards into policy, into regulation, and so it then guards, I think, our DPI implementation. The second one, which I think is a critical part about DPI, is really, again, also about streamlining the stakeholder participation so that we can also be held accountable. We had a session, I believe, on the 16th of October with Black Sash and the DPI initiative, where we were able to sit down on the application that the minister went through earlier on, and they were able to give us, I think, very tangible feedback in the ways that we are not thinking about exclusion, just given the incredible work that they do on the ground in urban settings and rural settings and so on. And so turning those sessions and the feedback not into once or quarterly sessions, but into, I think, something which is consistent, and then we can actually play it back not only to civil society and the other stakeholders, but in some way we can also bring in that capacity, I think is going to be quite important going forward. Thanks.
Thank you. So I'll say 3 things, actually, in the next 6 months that we're very excited about. The first one is the new data governance policy. It was built with public consultation. Actually, we have a very strong history of democratic participation in the Brazilian government, especially under our current president, Lula. So almost all our policies and the digital ones go under a public consultation. So we have that, the data governance policy. One of the key elements is the establishment of the data executives and curators in every ministry. So those are going to be the ones like really responsible for making good decisions on how to handle data. The second one is, I told you about the verifiable credentials project. We are working on creating a digital wallet with consent mechanisms embedded in it. So we are excited about that. And the third one, I will be the third one to talk about children protection, because we actually have a very exciting topic now in Brazil. We just passed a law, a national law, to protect children's rights online. And we are creating an age verification mechanism for protecting children's rights online. So it has to do with creating age credentials, and we are studying the initiatives where we're thinking about using our digital ID, obviously, and some verifiable credentials, and also using zero knowledge proofs, so no exchange of mass biometric data. So we're very excited about those.
Yes, currently we are working with UNICEF to conduct an assessment for DPI for children in Tanzania. So 1 year from now, we are looking into a way that Tanzania has a Watoto data bank where all the database for the children are digitally stored. 1 year from now, we are looking into the country that parents or guardians can give out consent to use the data or children's data to access social services, the healthcare, education, and all that. 1 year from now, it's our hope that we will be able to share with our neighboring brothers around Africa the successful part of the DPI that Tanzania has, especially on the locally made brands like Jamii Exchange, digital payment, and data payment as well, and data exchange. Thank you.
All right, I'll be very quick. I have a list of 100 items in the 18, but I'll only talk about 2 probably. One is what we're doing with Tanzania, Lesotho, and Uruguay at the moment. We just want to scale it up. We have digital experts in 190 countries in UNICEF, so we're very much field-based organization. What we're doing here, we're doing it in a way that we can scale it in other places. The second is obviously, once the DPI is established, we're going to be enabling AI as well. And we want to make sure that the AI is used responsibly in every place. That is where also keeping children in mind and with the child rights in mind. And that is something that we're working with the governments as well, to use AI in this context responsibly.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you, panelists, for that wonderful concrete insights. We also got it on camera, so all your commitments for the next 18 months is out there. We're going to hold you to that. And thanks, Matthew, from Co-Develop and Gates Foundation. They are the one who makes the Safeguards work happen for us. They support us, so thank you for being the co-designer in the Safeguards journey so that Safeguards is at the speed of DPI deployment like Rob spoke about. This is a room filled with friends and people that we are co-designing Safeguards in country, globally. So we are very, very grateful and thank you that you're all over here. The next one is what is called as ultra lightning round. We don't have time for lightning round. How many of you love YouTube Shorts? Show of hands. Oh my God, that's like a small number. Sorry, we don't have 60 seconds, but we have given our next speakers like 2.5 minutes. And 3 wonderful people are going to come on the stage and share with us how the ecosystem is building. Remember, Safeguards is a whole of society effort. It can't be just the government implementers who are thinking about it. You have to ask for Safeguards. You have to say, build with Safeguards. You need to reinforce this. So there are 3 speakers who are going to share different perspectives across also different regions. So joining us from Asia Pac is Carolyn Flory, who is a digital development specialist. Please join us on the stage. She's from the Asian Development Bank, and she's going to share what they're doing in Asia Pac. Bringing us all the way from Africa, rainbow country? Yes, is Tina Power, and she is, oh God, I mixed your names. I am so sorry. So Tina is from Power Law Africa, and she's coming from South Africa, and she's going to share with us. And then coming from the land of Brazil to tell whether all the things that Bea has told is there, and will she do it in next 18 months, is Vivian Fernandez from IDEC. There are a lot more people that we couldn't accommodate. So Matthew, next time's half a day for Safeguards, please. Okay, because there are so many people who have stories to share. Carolyn, if I can ask you to kickstart, your 2.5 minutes starts now.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carolyn Flory with the Asian Development Bank, the newest sector at the Asian Development Bank. So Safeguards have always been central to ADB's work, but have traditionally focused on environmental and social risks. As digital systems and digital infrastructure become the backbone of public service delivery, from healthcare to education, we need to expand how we think about risk at the Asian Development Bank. So digital systems, as we know, carry unique risks that we've talked about: cybersecurity threats, data misuse, exclusion of vulnerable populations, and unintended governance consequences. At the ADB, we're building Safeguards early and proactively. So we have dedicated team members that are focused on digital risk, and we're integrating Safeguards into every project stage across the sectors that we work in. Our digital risk assessment classifies projects and provides tailored actions across policy, institutional capacity, training, and procurement. So we're still at the start of this journey. Safeguards, as we heard at the beginning, requires a multi-stakeholder approach. And we're committed to learning from all of you and other partners for sharing lessons openly across our ecosystem. So really excited to be here. So to date, just some updates on the work that we've been doing. We have ongoing research with Dahlberg on DPI and Safeguards in 6 South Asian countries, leveraging the UNDP Safeguards framework, World Bank ID4D principles, G20 principles. And regionally, we found that frameworks are evolving, but are still fragmented and weakly enforced. So most countries have ID and payment laws, but lack robust interoperability, data protection, and cybersecurity safeguards, which limits trust and system integration. So we're also leading and working as part of the MDB Harmonization Working Group, working with other multilateral development organizations, trying to align the work that we're doing, our programmatic approaches, our Safeguards work, metrics on DPI and digital transformation. So we also are excited to announce we have two announcements at this year's Global DPI Summit. So first, we've signed a tripartite MOU with CDPI and co-developed that highlights collaboration on safeguards and has clear joint work programs. So we're really focused on the doing and not just the talking. And the second is our partnership with UNDP to establish a new DPI stewards program. ADB and UNDP want to bolster leadership, want to support leadership that's visionary, collaborative, open, and we aim to deploy this program in a few countries. We anticipate that stewards will coordinate across ministries, align national leadership, and ensure DPI investments remain inclusive and people-centered. So they're building local ownership in this long-term sustainability that we're looking for. So this is also a plug for our session on Thursday, day 3, from 1:30 to 3 o'clock, where we'll hear from some of these leaders themselves and really want this to be an open conversation as we design the program. So by embedding these digital safeguards into every stage of our own operations and working in partnership, we hope to build these programs that are sustainable, inclusive, and resilient. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for doing it very quickly. The reason that we work with a lot of the ecosystem is also so that we can get the knowledge back and put it into this living framework. So if you look at the books that we have provided with you, if you visit our website, you have the practices. So we are constantly getting all of this knowledge back and making it real time, as applicable as possible to all of these risks which emerge. With that, can I request for the video to be played? Yeah.
Civil society is in touch with the lived experiences of communities. These communities are many times marginalized, in the fringes, or are actually the users of digital ID system. Oftentimes, the communities that we serve are not in the rooms where decision-making is made on digital ID system. And civil society acts as a bridge between those communities and government and other stakeholders, including private actors.
Civil society plays a very big role in terms of helping bridging the services of the government, ranging from the education sector to the health sector to even advancing civil and political rights. If governments could work with civil society, the absorption of DPI could go very well because they have the trust of the community.
Civil society organizations play a crucial role in organizing communities to have their voice heard in the process of transition and the adoption of digital public infrastructure. And civil society, by engaging with communities, by raising awareness, by holding governments accountable, ensure that whatever infrastructure is rolled out is efficient and also inclusive.
Civil society brings complementary expertise to technical issues. We're able to apply a rights-based lens where an issue might otherwise be dealt with as exclusively technical and ignore the human aspects of it. So I think partnership with civil society and not mere consultation is vital, and civil society can be a powerful ally in building digital ID systems or even DPI that is inclusive.
Partnership is what civil society is seeking with government implementers. So again, a call to action on that. And to talk us about how partnerships work, we have probably after being in the PICS forum for about 12 months, IDEC is going to share with us what they have learned, how they are influencing safeguards. Vivian, over to you.
Thank you, Raja. I'm very happy to share IDEC's experience here today. We are studying over the 2 years gov.br and PICS. Gov.br are the main platform for accessing public service in Brazil, and PICS, our instant payment system. So IDEC is an independent organization that defends consumer rights in Brazil, and we are conducting this research to understand better these 2 important DPIs. Beatriz had already talked about CAR, and now we are talking about PICS and gov.br. To do this research, we looked at PIX and GovBR through 3 different lenses: sovereignty, security, and social inclusion. Based on historical analysis, comparisons with other countries, and conversations with Brazilian experts, we developed around 20 practical recommendations for PIX and GovBR. And we are trying to improve the system because Brazil is well known for having good DPIs, very well developed, but there is a space for improvement. So we are trying to put the discussion ahead and trying to make things a little bit different. Since then, we launched the executive summary and with the recommendations, and we started to talk with different stakeholders to present these recommendations, and we are trying to explore a little bit what we are, in fact, we are trying to present them and try to explore new opportunities being in this space of governance. As Raja told, we got a seat in PIX Forum and also in GovBR committee, advisory committee. Our next step will be the launch of the full report of PIX and GovBR. We are trying to show you a little bit about the history, some analysis regarding these 3 lenses that I talked before. So I invite everyone to be with us. You can check in our website in the end of the month. We are going to launch this report with new informations.
Thank you, Vivian, for that. If any of you wants to know how to sit at the table, how to have these conversations, how to drive with insights, I would recommend you sitting with Vivian and Lua over here from IDEC. Lua, give them a shout out to people. Yes, thank you. We can't contain our work in just this room, so we built a wall for you. There is a safeguards and inclusion wall that we have. This is just one of the story that we have. This wall is not to keep you out, but to get you to see and learn and embrace this. So this is in the networking lounge, and we hope you can find it. If not, find one of us and ask where it is, and we can point it out. I think there are 8 stories there. There are 8 stories that we have displayed for you. With that, I think everybody is talking about data sharing, data exchange. Everybody wants verification, and a lot of you are a little worried about how data exchange works. So as part of it, we are at UNDP launching the data exchange governance framework. We also see from DPI map that the data exchange work is the one which is taking the biggest, I would say, acceleration in different countries across different continents. So to help governments and give them the advice that they need on how to build with safeguards, we are launching the data governance framework today. So with that, can I have the video, please?
A data exchange system in many A data exchange system in many ways is like a public library. Each library holds its own collection of books, just as different ministries, private organizations, or civil society groups generate and store their own data sets. Libraries are connected through a shared catalog, with established structures that provide details on resources available, manage their circulation, and facilitate access. Within a data exchange system, governance, much like the chief librarian, ensures that access is fair, materials are well maintained, and everything is handled responsibly. When governed well, a data exchange system enables safe, equitable data flows that foster innovation, enhance public services, and empower communities. But unlike books, when governance fails in the data world, it's not just a few pages lost. Safety is threatened, security is compromised. Accountability disappears, with real consequences for people and communities. This is why governance of data exchange systems is essential, so people can truly benefit from safe and inclusive digital public infrastructure. When we treat data as a public good, we must be extra careful with how it's collected, shared, and used. The UNDP governance framework for data exchange systems builds on the principles of the DPI safeguards. It's designed to help countries ensure that their data flows are fair, right-based, and resilient, functioning as a true public good.
Can I touch now? Can I move it? Thank you. On Thursday, which is day 3, we will have a deeper session which goes into the different realms of the data exchange. It's not a theoretical practice. It is something that we have got from countries having worked for the last 2 years. They have now integrated with safeguards so that it is inbuilt and it accelerates the work that you will be doing. With that, okay, now I've been given permission to move forward. It's not just us. A lot more of the people in the ecosystem are doing work on data exchange. Dial, one of our partnering firms or organizations on data exchange, is doing some cutting-edge work on Ethiopia and helping them with the data governance. So if you're interested, please do scan and read about how Ethiopia is working with safeguards on the digital ID, the data exchange, and what plans they have for 2026. With that, I think somebody else is working on data exchange, and Tina, that's you. Why don't you give us a lawyer's perspective of data exchange and rights?
Thanks, Raja. I'm going to do the classical lawyer thing and not actually give a lawyer's perspective, but speak on behalf of my clients and those that I work with. I've got 2 minutes, and I'm going to give 2 shout-outs. The first is about getting it right from the start, which we've spoken a lot about today, and the second is the role of genuine civil society participation. So the first shout-out goes to the Mzansi Exchange team, which is presently being led by National Treasury in support of the Open Cities Lab and many others. But what they are doing with the exchange that was piloted and was launched last month is to get it right from the start. So they've set up a legal and governance task team made up of civil society organizations, human rights lawyers, the public sector, the private sector, government as well. So genuinely multi-stakeholder. And they are trying to set up from the get-go the systems and structures that work. What do the agreements look like? What is the redress mechanism? What if something goes wrong? But they're doing all of this in the pilot. And that matters because we need to make sure that before data goes live, before real data is shared with real consequences, we know and we can validate that this has been tried and tested, and the systems and its outcomes protect, respect, and promote human rights. So this is not just commendable, but it is essential. And we're hoping that the data exchange in South Africa is going to set the foundation and the standards for the rest of the DPI initiatives in the country. But all of this will only work if we have genuine public participation. And here I want to give a specific shout out to South African civil society. So they're starting to warm up to this idea. They were lukewarm initially. But now they are doing what civil society does best. And they are demanding that all of these commitments that government is saying, all of the wonderful things that were said this morning, actually come to fruition and are actually meaningful. So good on you, civil society. What they have done is they have started calling on government to say, we need you to show in real time that you are prioritizing privacy, that you are taking inclusion seriously, that you have safeguards in place and that you're doing it properly. But we need to be in the room and we need to be part of that conversation so that we can actually verify that. So what they've done is they prepared a letter. And I've been briefed on this letter. It's not a letter that I've drafted, but there are wonderful colleagues in this room who can speak to the letter if you would like to chat to them afterwards. But what this letter does is it calls on government to say, we are here as civil society. We want to be part of the conversation and we want to talk to you about this because we are with communities on the ground and we have some insights. So for those who are interested, you're very welcome to scan the QR code and the letter will pop up. If you want to sign on to the letter or add anything to the letter, you are very welcome to. We have colleagues from Black Sash over there who are very open to having conversations further. So all of this is to tie together the 2 shout-outs. South Africa is proving that it is possible to get it right from the start. But in order to do so, we need to bring civil society along with us. So with that said, let's simply get it right from the start and make sure that public participation is part of every step in this process. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Tina. And in case you want to continue to stress test the South Africa My Mzansi, because they are a host country, they invited us to Cape Town, and you want to stress test their their DPI. Tomorrow we have the My Mzansi Inclusive Design Lab. All of you who are people-centered, journey designers, who are policy circle, trust safeguards specialists, and the technologists, all of you can go join this hackathon and really, really stress My Mzansi out so that we can find where the friction and the failure points are. So with that, we were asked last year when we came for the Global DPI Summit, show us proof, show us this works. So hopefully in the last 45 minutes, we have shown that different ecosystem participants are warming up. We promise that next year we will come with like quantitative data because that is something that people are asking, show us what it happens, like how does it work. And with that, I'm gonna give it back to Toby to bring us to a closure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to our lightning round speakers, to our panel speakers. Let's close with how you can be active participants, because as we've been talking about throughout the session, DPI Safeguards, the initiative is a unifying, ecosystem-led, multi-stakeholder effort. And we're building 3 collectives of implementers, enablers, and CSO. And these collectives are for learning from each other and getting support about DPI safeguards. And this year we've seen, for example, South Africa implementers learning from Dominican Republic. We've had Uganda CSO sharing and learning from Kenya and South Africa civil society organizations. And these are kind of learnings, learning experiences that we want to really propagate and build upon. Also, the collective, you can engage with other like-minded people, as we have in this room, who want to be able to amplify and share your experiences, such as we've heard today, on how you're building with safeguards. And finally, we want you to be able to find other global and local enablers who are interested with building safeguards. I want to add that many of you have different needs, capacity, knowledge, and funding needs. And being part of this collective enables us to be able to hear from you, to listen, to understand the needs of the ecosystem, and to better understand how we can serve you better. Please scan the QR code and join our collectives. We look forward to learning and building together. I'll give just one more, maybe 30 seconds before we move on. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, I'm in Africa, dancing comes naturally. Okay. I just want to say the framework, as we mentioned, is a living body of work. So we always seek your feedback, your contributions to help us to continue to develop and refine this. This year, we had more recommendations around AI, child rights, with support from the ecosystem. We had Action on financial inclusion, we had UNICEF on child rights. Just because, as we say, it's living, as new risks emerge, we have to have new practices and recommendations to help us mitigate and ensure that DPI is safe and inclusive. Write to us, please, at DPI Safeguards at UN.org. If you have any questions, any feedback, any contributions, we're happy to listen. We want you to be part of building safe and inclusive DPI for societies. Finally, we have one more Mentimeter, and I really, I want you to help me settle one question. That, since we're on the African continent, I need your help with this. And I want to see what the answers are going to be. So please, help me. And I want everyone, please, if you've ever tasted it, you've heard of it. Oh, of course, am I going to get... I just want to see what is going to happen. I know.
View result. It's coming? No, surely not. The rice is cooking. The jollof rice is on the fire. Okay, I'm going to join this by myself. Raji, can I see the phone so I can see the responses? Is it here? Refresh. I mean, I see. Oh. Do you know what? No. Objectively speaking. Objectively. There was only one answer. I wasn't expecting anything else. And I thought it was going to be Nigeria, but I can see this big Ghana. I'm not sure what's happening. So let's move on to the next question. This is not going as I planned. Let's move on to the next question. Yes, Nigeria know the carry last, but yes, thank you. Now it looks better. Objectively speaking, it looks better. So, lastly, please, in your country, what should be done to improve inclusion? We just want to get a few ideas from you. So, as we continue to contribute and submit these responses, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's come out today. Thank you to all our speakers, to all our contributors, to Gates Co-Develop for giving us the opportunity to really start this journey and be part of this wonderful community. On behalf of UNDP and Audit, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your candor. Thank you for your contributions. We recognize that this is not a journey we can take by ourselves. We need your help, we need your support, and we are here to listen and to support and build DPI safeguards together. Thank you, everyone. Before we go, can I ask that we come for what we want to take? Yes, a family photo, apparently, on this stage.
As I woke up one morning, just thinking about the night before, we were dancing in a club in Kingston town, sweating to the break of dawn. The summer